We all wonder from time to time if we have a doppelganger out there in the world. Every once in a while, people find theirs, and the discovery can be amazing. But for two minor league baseball players, they not only discovered that they looked the same, but they also had the exact same name. The mystery around their true identities and birth could only be solved with one thing: a DNA test. You're not going to believe what they found. But before we start our story, smash the like button, make sure to subscribe and hit the notifications bell so you won't miss any new stories. This story begins with the birth of Brady Fiegel. Well, actually, it begins with the birth of two Brady Fiegels. Brady Gregory Fiegel was born on November 27, 1995 in Missouri. He had a pretty normal life before heading off to Mississippi to play college baseball. But what was pretty odd was another Brady Fiegel had already been born on December 27, 1990 in Maryland. This was Brady Matthew Fiegel. He also had a pretty normal childhood, and he headed to college to pursue his baseball dreams. No one could have predicted how far they would mirror each other's lives. As both Brady Fiegels grew up and attended college, they began to build names for themselves on their college baseball teams. After graduating, Brady Gregory Fiegel headed to Oakland Athletics affiliate, the Single-A Beloit Snappers. Whereas his unknown doppelganger, Brady Matthew Fiegel, was also reaching the same heights and headed to Texas Rangers Triple-A affiliate, the Round Rock Express. Both Fiegels were building a big name for themselves, but they had no idea that this name was shared with someone else. When you look at the two Brady Fiegels side by side, they look pretty much identical, but you'd be amazed at just how much about the two guys is actually the same. For starters, their teams both picked them as pitchers, and that's not all. What's amazing about their similarities is that they have the same color hair, the same bushy beard style, and the same style of glasses. Not only that, but they are both exactly 6 foot 4 inches tall. But that's not the only thing they share. Sometimes, looking at the two doppelganger baseball stars, you'd be hard-pressed to decide for sure which one is which. They do look exactly the same, but the truth is, there is one key difference between the two of them. Have you spotted it yet? That's right. The two Bradys play with different hands. Brady Matthew is left-handed, while Brady Gregory plays with his right. So, that's one way to tell them apart if you ever spot them on the field. Reading all this and looking at the pictures, it's amazing to think that these two Brady Fiegels were literally growing up and living the exact same life while looking exactly the same, and they had no idea that the other person existed. Outside of my family, I didn't think there were any other Fiegels, both of them said verbatim in an interview with Inside Edition. Things were just getting creepier and creepier. As if it wasn't weird enough that these two players have the same name, face, beard, and career, but things got even more crazy when they ended up with the exact same injury and needed surgery. Both Fiegels suffered UCL tears in their elbows and needed to have surgery to get it fixed. And what doctor did they go to? You guessed it, they went to the same one. Little did they know that this doctor's appointment would change their lives forever. As both Fiegels realized they needed surgery on their elbows, they headed to the same doctor, the famous and internationally respected orthopedic surgeon, Dr. James Andrews. But wait, it gets even weirder. Not only did they have the same injury, the same surgery, and the same surgeon, but they also went to the surgery within 6 months of each other. You might wonder how they managed to get in and out without noticing each other, but the truth of how they found out about each other is even crazier. It's pretty amazing that these two identical-looking baseball stars with the same name headed to the same doctor for the same surgery on the same injury, and they didn't even come across each other. But as fate would have it, it was a tiny admin mishap in the doctor's office that would end up shining a light on this crazy coincidence and changing both of their lives forever. Because it was the doctor's receptionist who ended up calling one Brady, but actually getting through to the wrong one. Can you imagine someone calling you from the doctor's surgery about a recent procedure, using your correct name, but then realizing they're not talking about you at all? That's exactly what happened to Brady Gregory Fiegel, who received a phone call about his surgery around 6 months after it happened. "I was probably 6 or 7 months out of surgery," he said, "and their office called our trainer and said, 'Hey, when's Brady reporting for surgery? Is he getting down here tomorrow?' He was like, 'He had it 6 months ago.' What are you talking about?" That's how I found out. There was 2 of us. Here's where things get even crazier. Because after all this time, with so many wild coincidences, the 2 Bradys finally found out about each other. But in reality, they weren't even that interested. Even though to the rest of the world they looked exactly the same. The 2 Bradys knew their own faces so well that they could easily see a few differences. They were slightly curious about each other, but they didn't think it was that big of a deal. But they had no idea what was about to happen. Even though the 2 baseball players didn't think it was that interesting that they had so many similarities, it soon became clear that the rest of the world felt pretty differently. Everyone who watched the games, fans, critics, and media pundits, was amazed by the uncanny resemblance between the 2 Brady Fiegels. The confusion grew as fans began messaging the wrong Fiegel on social media, fueling even more public interest in these mysteriously identical baseball players. At first, the mix-ups happened mostly online, but soon, real-life encounters added to the spectacle. Fans would approach them at events asking for autographs, only to realize they had mistaken one for the other. "He has like a perfect game card," Brady Matthew recalled. "I'm always like, yeah, it's not me, I'm sorry, I can't sign it." They're like, "Can you still sign it?" I'm like, "No, I'm sorry, it's not my card." As the fascination with the 2 Fiegels spread, Inside Edition invited them for an interview. When they appeared together for the first time, the public went wild. People simply couldn't believe these 2 weren't related. Their phones exploded with messages, and suddenly their story became the center of national attention. The public was desperate for answers. How could 2 unrelated men not only share the same name, but also look and act nearly identically? Speculation reached a fever pitch, and Inside Edition, equally intrigued by the reaction, decided to take things further. They offered the Fiegels a DNA test, and both players agreed. The world was eager to know the truth, but the Fiegels themselves weren't as invested. They were certain they weren't related, though they were curious about their ancestry. Brady Gregory suspected his roots were German, while Brady Matthew had no particular expectations but was open to learning more. After years of confusion and speculation, the long-awaited DNA test results were finally in. The 2 Fiegels sat down to read them. Brady Gregory went first and found exactly what he had suspected: 53% German ancestry. Then Brady Matthew checked his own results. To his astonishment, he was also 53% German. Yet the question remained, did this mean they were related? With their long list of eerie similarities, it was time to answer the biggest question. Were they actually brothers? They took a deep breath and looked at the final results. It turned out they shared no DNA at all. The revelation stunned fans and media outlets worldwide. Even the Fiegels, who had initially dismissed the possibility, had started to wonder if they could be long-lost siblings. Now, faced with undeniable proof, they were surprised by the outcome. But the public refused to believe it. Many insisted there had to be more to the story. How could 2 unrelated men be so eerily alike in appearance, mannerisms, and even heritage? Even the Fiegels, despite their earlier certainty, couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. The idea of discovering a long-lost brother had started to feel real, and now that possibility was gone. Imagine finding someone who looks exactly like you and shares the same name, height, and career. Surely you would feel like you found a family member in them, even if not technically. And that's exactly how the 2 of them felt. "We're still brothers in a way," said Brady Matthew. Even though the 2 Brady Fiegels were disappointed that they didn't turn out to be brothers, they accepted the results and remained friends. However, their fans were not as accepting. Many were convinced there had been a mistake, flooding social media with discussions insisting that the 2 must be related. Despite the skepticism, their story highlights the incredible phenomenon of doppelgangers. Many dream of finding someone who truly understands them, and for the Brady Fiegels it seemed like they had. It raises the question, how many people might unknowingly have an identical twin out there? Although they didn't discover an actual family connection, the Fagles share a special bond. Yet fans and media continue to speculate that there is more to their story. Some theories are wild, with one suggesting that one Feigl traveled back in time. Others, however, are more grounded, with fans calling for another DNA test, citing the occasional inaccuracy of such tests. DNA tests have been known to produce errors. Even identical twins have sometimes received conflicting results. This has led many to believe the Fagles should explore genealogy to trace where their family trees intersect. This way, even if they're not direct brothers, they might discover a distant connection. However, convincing them to dig deeper is a challenge. The Fagles have moved on and don't feel the need to repeat the process. Whether it's because they already feel a strong enough bond or they don't want to relive the disappointment, they refuse further tests and just want to focus on their careers. Despite fan insistence, others share the Fagles' perspective and believe there's no real connection. Some even argue that upon closer inspection, the two don't look as identical as people first assumed. Could their similar beards and glasses be exaggerating the resemblance? As public figures, the Fagles have faced intense scrutiny over their appearance. Some fans took their analysis too far, making harsh comments. One YouTube user bluntly claimed they had different facial structures, reducing their resemblance to just red hair, beards, and glasses. Others, however, appreciated the coincidence, marveling at their shared traits despite distinct features. As with many viral stories, there were those who dismissed the entire situation, questioning why it received so much attention. One commenter sarcastically suggested they could have confirmed if they were twins just by comparing birthdays, missing the point entirely. Regardless of opinions, the story of the two Brady Fagles captivated baseball fans and genealogy enthusiasts alike. The discovery of a doppelganger is rare, but these two embraced it, forming a unique bond. Will you ever find your identical look-alike? Only time will tell.